We want to just give it another couple of minutes and see if we have more people joining. It's only 11:01.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, everyone.
It would be great if anybody wanted to put their name and their organization into the chat while we're waiting. I'll put it into our meeting attendance and our notes. If you want to follow along, here's the agenda link.
Okay, well, there's 15 people in the room. What do you say we go ahead and get started?
All right.
So I can kick it off. I'm Lindsay Vasek. I work at ComEd. I manage all of our biodiversity and stewardship programming, as well as our environmental justice efforts and our avian program. And we are very proud to be the lead on GVI Goal 3, which is increasing green infrastructure. And so glad you all are here today. We are looking to have a really robust discussion, particularly about metrics, what we're looking to do through this effort, how we're going to measure it in ways that are, the SMART goals, specific, measurable, actionable, which are realistic and time bound. So I think that's going to take up the majority of our presentation today. And Ted, I can go ahead and pass it to you, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ted Hafner, and I am the Green Vision Coordinator for Chicago Wilderness Alliance. So as such, I oversee all the goal groups, of which this is one, and I look for synergies and cross connections to elevate and amplify all of the good work that CWA is doing and all of its partners. Laura, why don't you go next?
All right. I'm Laura Riley. I'm the Managing Director of Chicago Wilderness Alliance, and I'm happy to see you all here today. How about I pass it to Liana?
Hi, my name is Liana Smale. I am, I said in the chat, ex-Forest Service, and looking to get more involved in Chicago Wilderness. And I will pass it to, Marcella.
Fiona, my name is Marcella Corona. You might know me as Marcella Bondi-Keenan. I founded my own environmental planning and policy practice recently, so it's called MK Corona. And I also hope to pitch a little bit of a research study that I'm doing later today. I will pass it to Hannah.
Hey everyone, Hannah Cusick. I'm a landscape architect at Living Habitats, listening in today. Heidi Natura at our office has attended these meetings in the past, so I'm filling in for her today. Let's see, Tessa.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Tessa Murray. I am the Watershed Policy Manager at Friends of the Chicago River, where I lead our Greater Chicago Watershed Alliance, which is a watershed group coalition of public, private, and nonprofit partners all working on green infrastructure and nature-based solutions work in the Chicago-Calumet River system. So thanks for having me today, and I'll pass it to Catherine.
everyone. My name is Catherine O'Reilly. I work at the University of Illinois Chicago as part of their Sustainable Landscapes team, and I, along with Caroline Hernandez, help to facilitate the Growing Chicago Habitat movement, which aims to create habitat and connect habitat along rights of way in the Chicago wilderness region. And with that, I'll pass it over to Caroline.
Hi everyone, Caroline Hernandez, University of Illinois Chicago, supporting Catherine. I'll pass it to Eliana.
Oh, she went already. Let's see. How about Abigail?
I don't think Eliana went.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard Liana. Okay, Eliana. Thank you. So
I was
sorry.
like, I did? Anyway.
No.
It's all good. It's all good. Hi, I'm Eliana Brown. I'm University of Illinois Extension and Illinois Indiana Sea Grant water quality and stormwater specialist, working on green infrastructure and some other things. And I don't know who has not gone, so apologies.
I haven't gone. I'll go, Eliana.
I'm going to pass it to Abigail.
Abigail Garfalo. I'm previously the natural resources educator in Cook County. Now I'm the state master naturalist specialist. So continuity of just kind of like making sure Cook County Extension is still doing good things. And I asked Eliana to come because I thought she'd be a great contact for this meeting. So. I got to pass it to somebody, don't I? Matt.
How about if we raise our hand if you haven't gone yet? Casey, I don't think you've gone.
Hello, everybody. I'm Casey Sullivan. I am the Natural Resources Manager at Argonne National Laboratory, and I've been participating in many of these committees for quite some time. So hello, everybody.
Oh. Laura G.
Hi, everybody. Laura Goodrian. I'm the new Chicago Program Director for the Keller Science Action Center at the Field Museum. I'm also on the Chicago Wilderness Alliance Steering Committee, and I'm here to learn more about my work there and what I'm supposed to be doing.
Wonderful. Robin.
My name is Robin Fleckney. I am the Natural Resources Manager for the Village of Glenview. We've implemented a lot of green infrastructure practices, could do a lot more. Thanks.
Thank you. Matt.
Yes, good morning. My name's Matt Bardall. I work at Geosyntec Consultants. I work out of our Western Suburbs office in Oak Brook, Illinois. Longtime member of Chicago Wilderness, just starting to look to get back in. My role here as senior principal is green infrastructure and climate resiliency. We've done a couple of green infrastructure large plans in Cook County, Chicago, then other larger cities in the upper Midwest. So looking forward to speaking with this group. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Kate.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kate Avasik, and I lead the climate resilience program at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. We certainly have been promoting green infrastructure through a lot of our work for some time now, and have a particular focus at the moment on transportation resilience. And so I'm looking forward to getting involved with this group to bring some key insights into that work.
I haven't gone either. Jim Heisler. I'm the vice president for the McHenry County Conservation Foundation. So we're the fundraising arm of the district. I don't see any of my other colleagues here, so I'm glad someone's on the call. I'm just a volunteer. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I don't know if
Lindsay,
anyone's...
did you want me to take this part?
Sorry, I was on mute. And kick it off. That'd be great.
Okay. So before we get started on the main topics for discussion, we wanted to present a little housekeeping information here. This group is looking for a co-lead to help out Lindsay. Caroline was a co-lead, but the ERC duties have taken too much of her time, and so we will want to thank her and send her off into the sunset elegantly, and look for a new co-lead for Lindsay proper. For those of you who don't know, we have a sheet of expectations that we can post or send out. I think it's helping organize minimum 4 meetings a year, and there is a stipend provided as well that you can waive or decide to take. So if anybody would like to step up in this group, it would be great. Please let Laura, Lindsay, or I know. You can certainly think about this. We can also distribute the expectations, which are not high. And we can go from there. But Lindsay has been sort of helpless for about 6 months now, and we'd love to not helpless, but you know what I mean. And we would love to get her some company in her role. Working groups and leads. I think and you'll see why at the end of this presentation, but I think we're at the point with this group where we're looking for specific working groups. And I after making this general announcement, I want to pause it and park it probably until the end of today, because this discussion will make more sense after we talk about the goals and what we've done to date. And then lastly, as we meet quarterly, we're not always going to be reviewing metrics and goals. We will have opportunities to do presentations. So if anybody knows of a presenter or has a topic to present on, and you want to give a 15 or 20-minute presentation, that would be fantastic. I'm thinking particularly about maybe some of the partners that might be designers or installers on this group. Those usually make fun projects to look at in terms of how we do our work and all of that. And I think those are my announcements. Any questions for me or Lindsay or Laura about any of these issues?
For the other teams, oh, sorry, please go ahead.
I would just love to get more information about the expectations, and you said they're online. If somebody could drop a link, I'm happy to go there too.
Marcella, I'll be happy to follow up with you with that. Thank you.
With your other groups, what would you say how many hours they spend per week? I'm sorry, per month.
Yeah, Lindsay, that depends on the group. There are some groups like, gosh, the protection group probably spends at least 4 hours per month on meetings because they meet weekly on different topics. And there's probably, 15 or 20 minutes prep that goes into that for each meeting, but they're sort of probably the most dedicated scenario. And then there are groups that meet quarterly. So, it might be an hour a month if, Laura, I see your
Yeah,
hand.
I would say I'm going to drop a link to the description, and there are like an estimate, a range of times in there. So that might be helpful. Give me 1 second just as I pull that up.
Thank you, Laura.
Any other questions? Lindsay, do you want to take these or you want me to take these as well? It's basically wrapping the meeting that happened at Comment about a month ago.
Go ahead, Ted.
Okay. So as for instance, the Managing Healthy Landscapes group meets quarterly, and they do almost nothing but presentations. And so during their meeting, we had 2 excellent in-depth presentations. The first one was about grassland birds at Springbrook Prairie in DuPage County, and it was this older gentleman. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name because I am terrible with names. That's no excuse. But he had been studying grassland birds at Springbrook for about 30 years now, and he wants to turn his observations into a published paper. The long and short of his presentation was there were some grassland birds that had gone up, and there were certainly grassland bird species that had gone down in his 30 years there. But it's mixed results, and overall not seemingly as bad as the national trends in grassland birds, which are decidedly going down. So that was a bit of positive news. They also talked a little bit about how they manage the site. They generally mow every year. They try to burn every 3 to 5 years, if memory serves. And those are cool season, mostly cool season grasses with very little forbs in there, that they inherited from ag land back in the 70s. And they've just let the cool season grasses go. The second presentation we had was from the ComEd Prairie program. And it was not Lindsay, but it was Lindsay's colleague, Kelvin Limbrick, who talked about how they manage their prairie rights of ways and what some of the considerations are and how they do the work. And that may come up just because of the monitoring considerations, which we'll get into in a little bit, for metrics. But that was a really interesting presentation from ComEd, and we were happy to have them as well. Any questions on this, knowing we're sort of one generation removed from information sources? Nope.
I'd like to add, Ted, that our prairie program is distinctly different than our vegetation management program, which is where Kelvin is. He has a really cool job where he gets to look for special projects across our service territory. So what I do is manage our prairie program. We have 45 sites across Northern Illinois. They kind of range in quality, whereas Kelvin is everywhere up and down our rights of way and was able to give a good presentation on what he does. And I think that was recorded, if you're interested.
They were recorded. They're not on the websites just yet, but they were recorded. All right, and then a couple other updates. The OERP group, which is sort of a splinter group of this because we're looking at trees and urban canopy and urban forests as a means of green infrastructure. They have set a series of meetings through the summer to look at and revise the 10-year-old oak ecosystem recovery plan, which we have been looking into over the last year. If you are interested in that effort, please let me know, or please let Lindsay know, because we can connect you with that. And then the other announcement we wanted to make was that Mark Johnson from the Field Museum is no longer with the Field Museum. He is now with the Energy Resource Center. Because of that, the hub work, they will not be meeting until like August. The hub work will still be moving forward, but sort of in the spirit of transformation as Mark moves from one employer to the next. He will keep fellowship status at the Field Museum, so that means he still can get in and work on the hub. And we're working with him as he transitions to his new job to understand capacity and things like that. But I wanted to make this group know that that transition has taken place, and that we're on top of it as we can be. Any questions there? Nope. All right, now we get to the exciting stuff. Lindsay, you want to take this?
All right, sure. So the original goal for the Chicago Wilderness Alliance's Goal 3 was to support the transformation of 84,000 acres of non-nature reserve lands on private, corporate, and public properties. Obviously creating new corridors and increasing climate resilience across the CWA region. That 84,000 number comes from the original plan, which is 30 by 30. I'm not sure when that was created. I believe it was more than 5 years ago, though. So what we're thinking about, the exercises that we need to do is figure out, well, what is achievable and what is realistic? What can we do within the next 5 years by 2030? So that's where the metrics come in, looking at what's important and getting baseline values and creating a strategic plan from there.
So since this is metric year with all the Chicago Wilderness Alliance initiatives, we're doing this across all of the teams. So you're not alone here in green infrastructure. And the quick and dirty way that I have started this is to just look at our partner list. So I took our partner list from the website, downloaded it, put it in a spreadsheet, and just went through with my best guess as to which partner might have land that isn't publicly accessible, and to figure out from there then how much land we have. So you can see the spreadsheet here on the left. It's this for the partners that we have knows that have publicly accessible land, but we're looking at private land, institutional land, that kind of stuff. So they got a pink for no. The yeses got a green, and the maybes got a yellow, just because it looked like they either might have projects that they have designed, or they might be a land trust. So maybe they have conservation easements that they hold, things like that that weren't readily apparent um, or obvious. So they got a maybe, and they have notes in the margins. So yes, Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to like step back for folks who are kind of new to this. So this information and these data layers are uploaded or would be uploaded into the hub and be contributing to that full green vision for the region, right? So like we've identified that that these lands that Ted is discussing are priorities for this goal, for prioritizing green infrastructure goal number 3. So so as we look towards that, we're looking at what data layers we could capture, right, to include into the hub.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, Laura. But sort of in the absence of the hub layers right now, which I haven't started on, I've just started on our partner list.
Right.
And so you can see that I think what Lindsay, the goal was 80,000 or 84,000 acres. And with just our partner list and the obvious stuff that I could get off of that, we're at 39,900 acres. So we're almost halfway. The problem here is that I think the lands that I have created are pre-2020, and I'm not sure how we parse that out for the purpose of this group. But it is nice to see that we do have, even with partners, a number of lands that contribute towards this goal. Now, here's where the working groups sort of come in. Is it's great that I can and we can do this, but there's a lot more work with these maybes. There's a lot of outreach to work on in terms of the notes that I put in the margins that will help this work move forward quicker if there is a working group that might be dedicated to taking a chunk or 5 or 10 of these in the spreadsheet. So I don't know how that weaves into the conversation today. But we wanted to show you guys this stuff so that we could think about, not only looking at CWA partners and building that out, but we also have homeowners associations, right? Schools are in this list, corporate campuses, religious and faith-based institutions, and then private residences are germane as well. So that's really what I have. I don't know if we want to stop share and discuss where we go from here. What's missing? Any comments? Any questions with what we've done to date so far?
What is the criteria, I guess, for like being classified as like meeting the goal?
So I'll go back to the slideshow because it's really weird language, but basically what we're looking at is it's hold on, let me pull it up again. Okay, so it'd be this one. So it's this term Abigail, non-nature reserve lands on private, corporate, and public properties. So it's basically like native landscapes on non-public land.
So like homegrown national parks, like you would kind of like,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. And it can include things like, in addition to the corporate campuses, universities, schools, other properties.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about conservation at home certification. In my head, I'm like, we should talk about that because we could add to that number
That would be
immensely
amazing.
between all the partner organizations. So
yeah, that would be amazing, actually, Abby. Okay.
we'll chat.
I also have a question on sort of this language. When we're saying that transformation of 84,000 acres, is that additional wildlife corridors, climate resilience, or is it improvement of existing, or is it both?
I think it's for this group to debate, but in my mind, it's both. And that's why I mentioned the sort of when we get to this slide, right, and we have the 39,000 acres. Some of that is before 2020 when we came up with these goals. So I don't know how to measure that. I'm not saying that I think we need to define an asterisk that as to how we count it, if that makes sense. Because go ahead. All right.
Sorry, I was just wondering, are there other organizations that are not listed here? Because we've got like NiSource that has a bunch of habitat.
I think NiSource is on our list. For the partner organizations, I just took a screenshot for the right, and then for the spreadsheet example, all I was trying to do was show you guys how we characterize the yes, no's, and maybes. I think NICOR is on the list. You're just not seeing them, Caroline.
Okay.
But you're right. They should be counted.
NiSource and NICOR, I think.
I think you're right. And I think we have one, and I can't remember which one. Because one is a partner and one is the national. Or vice versa.
Yeah, NIPSCO is a daughter company of NiSource, and then NICOR is a different company. They're part of Southern Gas, I believe.
Yeah, and you know what, Caroline, we should talk about this further because actually NiSource and NIPSCO are technically not partners, even though they have been on the corporate partner list. And so they're, that's just an example of an opportunity to think about how we merge the two lists between the rights of ways and Chicago Wilderness Alliance. I was just taking a look also at the chat. I see Marcella dropped in a survey that has been used to look at collecting information. So
I think we're also working on getting more engagement for like the National Rights of Ways Habitat Working Group Geospatial Habitat Database. And if we can get more data into that, then I'm hoping that means we can also get more data into the hub, which could then hopefully feed into this as well.
that would be great. Laura?
Yeah, sorry. I just had a question again. I'm new, so I'm sorry if y'all know all of these answers. But in terms of the 84,000 acres, are you talking 84,000 new acres starting in a particular year, or are you talking 84,000 acres total? So since the beginning of time, and then starting in 2030, we would set a new goal and a new goal and a new goal.
So in my go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's one of the things for this group to decide. and a starting point.
So, Laura, none of us were really a part of this group when the goals were made, unfortunately. So we're having to do some forensics here. I think my guess is it's 84,000 new acres beyond sort of a baseline of 2020-ish when the goals were created. But that again, that's my gut. It is, I think it's for this group to decide. The only clarification I'll give is like of those totals that I have on the spreadsheet, I just did a very loosey-goosey search for total acres under management or whatever. I didn't differentiate past a time horizon of 2020. So, you know, what I have down may look better than it actually is. But again, I think we can have this group figure out where it is because this is a new goal and we haven't really tracked it before the 2020s, right? It's not like we had a baseline and we're going up above and beyond that. Does that make sense?
Nope.
Casey, I see your hand.
I think it's a matter of differentiation because your 39,000 are probably those parties that were able to answer your initial survey with a yes. And there may be lands out there that fall into the category of green infrastructure. We just don't know what they are and or where they are or who owns them. But they may be functioning at this time as a viable green infrastructure.
Casey, I'll do you one better on that. There was no even survey. It's just me like Google searching the partner name if I think they have private lands and can contribute to this goal. So it's not even like a survey that someone responded to with an accurate count.
Yeah.
Caroline.
Maybe that's the idea though, is that like we've got this 84,000 acre goal now. Let's just see if we can get everybody on board and start tracking it. And then, I mean, you know, to Laura's point, it's like even if it's historical, if it's still habitat that we can find now or green space that we can find now, that's great. We get to it and then we can make a new goal after that. It's just even being able to track it is really challenging right now and find it all.
Yeah, and based on that comment, Caroline, I think the easiest lift is literally to go into the spreadsheet and look at the notes in the margin because there are a lot of like, you know, Pizos or people like that I think with a phone call and maybe getting their help, you know, they can get us that number that we're looking for without too much of an issue. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping, but you know, obviously there are a lot of yellows on the list and there's so far only one of me and that's where the the working groups that might meet in between our quarterly meetings come into play a little bit. And I think in talking to Lindsay about this, she would love working groups. She thinks it's about time. I'm thinking it's about time because we do have this metric direction that we can approach. And if anybody has a better idea, this was in my mind just the lowest hanging fruit. Casey.
So in our protected lands hub site, there is a GIS map of all the protected lands in the region, and a lot of those lands are parklands. And I believe, but I'm not certain, that could be differentiated because parklands aren't necessarily natural habitat, but they are providing function. So I think that's an opportunity to do some research there.
Are you volunteering yourself, Casey?
I can try. I can try. I mean, I think I know how to do it, so I can try.
I guess maybe this is a good time to, if anybody else is interested in helping Casey or I or anybody else that might undertake this effort, you want to give a show of hands. And generally, you know, these type of situations, it helps if it fits in your job description or something like that. My guess is it probably doesn't. But if this task looks interesting, are there any folks seeing
It-
no?
In this case, I would probably just reach out to David Holman, who I think is the consultant on that, and anyone can correct me, but he would certainly be able to make that distinction if he has that layer in a GIS platform where those lands are differentiated between natural lands and parklands, municipal parklands. So I'll just shoot him an email and see if he can do that.
Okay.
So Ted, just to clarify, the ask is for folks that can kind of take chunks of this giant list, call each of these folks individually, and
Email.
ask them what kind of land protections have you done pre-2020, post-2020? It's, you know, something, I mean, ideally, if not, then just what lands have you protected till now?
Yeah, and I don't even know, Laura, if it needs to be protection. I think it just needs to be like, you know, naturalistic planting or, you know, native plantings, that kind of thing.
And so part of my question then too is around, again, definitions, and I know I'm opening up a can of worms, but if somebody planted something 20 years ago and haven't touched it since, does that count? You know, how do we define kind of how do we count acres
Sure.
that maybe haven't been maintained? Is it being actively restored, like active action? Is it, yeah. And also, I was just going to say too, this might be a really great opportunity to, and this might be more for the steering committee, but seems like a really great opportunity to individually touch base with each of the organizations, and just have that kind of one-on-one conversation with them. So this might be something that we want to do in addition to or separately as a steering committee. Just throwing that out there.
It makes a lot more sense. This is just my personal opinion to only count lands that are being actively managed. Because as you said, you know, like for some of our projects, we have these Wildlife Habitat Council certifications. And if you don't renew them every 2 years, they go away. But then there's also the NWF certifications where you certify it once and then it's certified forever. Like, should that count? Like, in my opinion, no.
And I think I remember a conversation with Mark Johnston, something about how one of the layers in the hub is set up so that if there's no update on a restoration project after 5 years, it drops off, I think, something like that. So that could also just be our standard since that's already in play.
Laura, that sounds familiar. I don't think you're off on that statement.
I have one other question. And I'm sorry if I'm being dense. The corporate partners and just like, so even if they're not an official CW partner or a corporate partner, but they're like actively managing habitat, like Illinois Tollway, Illinois DOT, Indiana DOT, would we include them as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Can I make a comment into the spreadsheet of just where some additional partners I think we could include?
It would be great if you could add that and their contact information for the right person. Would be fantastic. I think that goes for everyone. Like, I think if there's someone that you feel and an opportunity to incorporate the data from, say, like what Abigail was mentioning, like, let's just make sure we capture that into the spreadsheet, put it there as a placeholder, and we can flesh out what that means.
I didn't see, did anybody indicate that they are interested in being in a smaller working group? I think in terms of meetings, as Ted said, it would just be one meeting in between our quarterlies.
And I don't think we have, I was just looking, I don't think we have the next quarterly date set yet.
I thought it was August 10th. The 15th, that's what your slides say.
There you go. So yeah, that Lindsay, that might mean meeting in June or July, early July-ish, just to see if there's any progress for assignments to hand out. We want to set that meeting now. That June or July working meeting.
I mean, in terms of my availability, the week of the 14th is out, but other than that, I can make whatever work.
How about the week of the 7th for folks? Is that too close to the holiday?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, sorry. What about the 10th, like, Thursday, July 10th?
I'm okay with that. Afternoon.
Lindsay
I
and
was
Ted,
thinking, oh, please.
sorry, we haven't set the date yet, and but we were also thinking of doing a Growing Chicago meeting, either this one of those weeks in July, and Catherine can speak more to it. But I don't know if you all think it would help to overlap, or you would want to just keep it separate. We were just going to do it at the Energy Resources Center, on campus, but you know, happy to coordinate that with you all as well, if that would help.
I think that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
That might help.
Okay. So I think especially if Lindsay is out the second week of July, then likely the third week of July is when we would be doing that meeting.
So the week of the 21st.
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't checked with a couple of folks yet, but it was one of those 3 weeks in July, the 7th, the 14th, or the 21st.
Okay.
Catherine's planning it now.
Sending out some information about that soon too. Like I said, I'm happy to coordinate any potential overlap, so it makes sense.
Yeah, that would be great. If at all possible, if I could put a request not on the 16th, because there's a steering committee meeting on the 16th and a couple other meetings scheduled that day. Selfishly, I'm just saying that for Ted and Laura and my sake, so
Probably not the 23rd because of the executive committee meeting, right?
that's right.
Thank you for the people who put their positive interest in the chat.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Thank you. Laura, the 84,000, you might want to ask Mark Bowman this, but I have a sneaking suspicion it has to do with the way they carved out potential 30 by 30 requirements. And for all of those of you who are not aware of this, about 4 or 5 years ago, Chicago Wilderness, in regards to 30 by 30, did a really intriguing thing where they basically split apart different land uses in the CWA geography and came up with the 30 by 30 amounts based on land use. So I think that is how they got to private land. And by lumping that sort of private land use together, ag has a different number, right? So there are 3 or 4 different numbers about how they got to that, and I think it's wrapped up,
Right.
but I'm not sure. And Laura, maybe you know better.
I just was going to share what's on the website or on the hub. So, if everybody's, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I was looking, Todd, at the document. And I was a little confused because it says 456,000 acres in green infrastructure. So I don't know where that number came from either, but sorry if that confuses things more.
Yeah, which document is this, Lindsay?
The 30 by 30 framework for realizing and measuring the goals of 30 by 30 in the CW region of Illinois.
Yeah, so I think that's entire 30 by 30 with everything stacked, if that makes sense.
That would make sense, yeah.
We do have some slides that I can look up that were used for some preliminary presentations on 30 by 30 itself. And that may actually be where we're able to piece all of this together. I apologize for the lack of clarity on this. But I will look for those slides and I can share them in the notes or in the follow-up.
So I think that's about what we had for you guys today. I don't know if there's other comments, conversation. It sounds like we have a working meeting as part of the Growing Chicago Habitat the week of the 21st of July, somewhere in there. We'll find out more from Catherine and Caroline when it comes out. And Laura will do some digging into 30 by 30. And I'm really excited that this is underway, even though it has some work to do. And I want to thank you guys for listening and giving comments and trying to sort this out with us. Because, you know, when you step into a role that you haven't created a couple years ago, it's always interesting.
If you give me a moment, I found the framework for the letter that was submitted for Illinois specifically. And I think it might be helpful for context. This was submitted to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. And so give me 1 second and I can get this link to you. There you go. It's long, but there are some slides in there. And then there was another document that was kind of worked out in the beginning that did a similar exercise across states. And so I will find those slides and we will get those.
And thanks everybody who expressed willingness to be on this little committee. Just to reiterate what Ted said, we are also looking for a co-chair with me since Caroline's no longer in that role. So please reach out to me if you're interested in that as well.
Thank you.
And then don't forget about our next meeting on August 15th. If you're not part of the co-working group. Or you don't want to come to the Growing Chicago, but I recommend you come to the Growing Chicago because those half days are fantastic. They're really cool.
Awesome meeting. One of the best I go to all year.
All right, everybody. I'm happy to give 10 minutes back to those who want it.
Great.